Hi, everybody. We are joining you here to talk about our NPP enrollment process. And we wanted to just walk you through the steps that you need to take as a coordinator and kind of get to know our staff and just get you started on this process. So one thing to know is that each of our teams have 2 staff members a part of it. So we do have Ellen joining us today, but you might also be in contact with Joan. And both of these gals can be reached at the email address you'll see here below. And then for our financial team, we are joined with Celeste today, but also Jeremy works with your students, so you might be talking with him over the phone or also through email. And you could reach them at any time at NPP Financial Services at northwestu.edu. And then lastly, we have Josh joining us today from our advising team, but you also may be in contact with Ian, or on occasion you might be in contact with Jessica as well. And they can always be reached together at nppadvising@northwestu.edu. So the first thing we wanted to let you know is that we have our Eagle webpage that you can get a lot of this information on yourself after we're done here, or you're always able to give us a call. So if you navigate to eagle.northwestu.edu, this link here is going to take you to our NPP homepage. If you go ahead and click on student enrollment, which is on the right-hand side, you'll come to our student enrollment page, and there you can get a guide that you can download. We also have an enrollment checklist that your students might find helpful, or you might find helpful while walking them through these steps. So we're just going to go ahead and talk about what it looks like start to finish for you and your students. So who is first? First, a student is probably going to apply to our program. And so Ellen works with us in admissions. What kind of steps should the coordinators be expecting?
Well, first of all, obviously the applicant or student needs to complete the intern application at your site. So whatever elements within that application they need to complete, they need to fill out that intern application. Secondly, they would need to fill out an NPP application and just make sure that they know that they are applying to the Northwest Partnership Program. And they should apply at, and we have this in the enrollment guide that you have, they should apply at www.northwestu.edu/partnership/apply. And one thing that would be very helpful from you as a coordinator is to sit with the student and fill out this application with them, or assist them in filling it out. It helps them kind of navigate it a little easier, and make sure one of the things that they mark is the campus and the academic program should be NPP. So also remember, if one of your students takes a semester off, they would need to reapply to NPP. And students who are continuing semester to semester do not need to reapply. So the first element of their application with the university would be to submit their transcripts, official transcripts. Make sure that the student is requesting these to be sent directly from the college, from the high school that they went to. We need all transcripts. If they're just in high school and they've taken any college within high school, any college courses, college and high school, running start and so forth, they'll need to send us those official transcripts as well. And I believe we have our address also in the enrollment guide for you. SAT, ACT scores are not required, but they can be helpful in placing the student into classes. The next thing would be, I will be asking you for, is your site approval or coordinator approval of that student. So if you do not accept them at your site for whatever reason, we don't need to know the reason, then we do not accept them into the university either. So you want to make sure that you set up an interview or time to meet with them and see whether they're a good fit at your site. And if they are, you just respond to me, yes, we've accepted them. If they are not a good fit, then you just say no. If you're in progress, getting that student vetted out, then you can just tell me it's in progress, and I'll wait a while on that. But we must have your coordinator site approval. And lastly, additional items that we may be requesting from the student could be a GPA petition based on their cumulative GPA, or we could be asking for an offense clarification if they've made any kind of offense statement within their application. We may be looking for clarification there.
Awesome. One more question I have for you, Ellen, is what's a good timeline for a student to apply? So if they're wanting to start in fall, what's a good month, or what's the range of months that students apply?
I would say, 3 or 4 months out would be the best, to allow ample time for them to get their transcripts. And also that would allow us time to request any extra documentation that we need, any clarification, and so forth, to get that all processed. Because in the admissions process, not only do they have to make it through enrollment, admissions, but as you'll see going down the line, they have to get through advising and financial aid and so forth.
Okay, perfect. So for coordinators to keep in mind, our deadlines for applying are July 1st for the fall semester and November 1st for the spring semester. So certainly spring, as early as January, I know we have students apply, but in the spring and early summer months is a good time for students to be applying. So great. So a student has applied, they've been accepted, hopefully, and then we want to get them started with their financial aid. So Celeste, what are the steps a student will take for financial aid?
So the first thing a student must do is file their FAFSA. Right now, if they want to get financial aid for the 1920 school year, they need to file for 1920. Right now, there's 2 award years open, and the current award year won't close till June. So it's important that they do the right FAFSA. Starting with that, they can go to fafsa.ed.gov to get started on their application. They will need the 2017 tax information, so just make sure that they have that handy. They will also need our school code, which is 00378300. It's totally fine if the student doesn't have that, as long as they kind of know the university's name and where we're located. Then FAFSA knows what our school code is and they can add it for them. So we're Northwest University in Kirkland, Washington.
Awesome. So I don't know if students ask you this often or if coordinators ask you, but how much does NPP cost?
That is a great question. Tuition is $310 per credit, plus the program fee that some sites choose to charge. So typically a full-time student would be paying about $5,020 per semester, which means that year-round, that would be about $10,040. We charge tuition on a term basis. So on the first day of the term, which this year would be August 26th, we'll charge half of that, which is that $5,020. And then come spring, the first day of the term again, which would be January 13th, we'll charge the other portion of it.
Okay, awesome. So students typically are taking 12 credits. That is full-time, and that would be the $10,040 cost per year that you were quoting. But students will actually be earning 15 credits per semester if they do those 3 credits of internship credit. Great. So if a student does their FAFSA, does that mean they're completely done with financial aid?
The financial aid can be a lengthy process. Sometimes as soon as students turn in the FAFSA, we can review all their information and send them an award letter. But other times students are selected for verification, which means that we just need to request additional tax information that they need to request through the IRS, or if they have their tax return handy, they can just send us a copy of that. But what will happen is once we receive their it typically takes 2 to 3 days. So if they file on Monday, we probably won't receive their information until Wednesday. But when that happens, we will send them an email. If they're missing documents, we'll send them what documents they're missing. We'll send them an attachment so they can have that. These are legal documents, so they have to have a wet signature. They can't do an electronic signature. So it's important that they print these out, scan them, fax them our way, or mail them our way.
Great, thanks so much. I know one thing I know about the financial aid process is a student can't go wrong as long as they're checking their Northwest University email, because your office is really good at always telling the student what the next step is. So is there anything else you wanted to add about your process, or pretty much summed up?
I think that after they do turn in the documents, we will send them an award letter, and they can view their award letter online on the EAGLE website. Once the student does accept their award terms and conditions, that means that they're accepting everything on their financial aid award letter. So if they want to make adjustments, if students don't want to take out loans, but they only want to get their Pell, they should talk to their financial counselor so we can make those adjustments for them.
Okay, awesome.
Last but not least, financial aid won't disperse till 2 to 3 weeks after the start of the term. So just to keep that in mind, financial aid won't disperse until maybe mid-September.
Right, so students don't need to be concerned, but if they do have any questions, they could contact you to make sure they have everything in place. Mm-hmm. Great, good. So these aren't necessarily right in order. Some of these things the coordinator and the student would be doing together, but we're going to move on to advising. So Josh is our main advisor. And what would be kind of the first steps in the advising process?
Yeah, so once a student is completely done with their enrollment process and we have their transcripts submitted to us from any previous institutions, that includes their high school, they go through what's called a transcript review process. And essentially what happens here is we are looking to see what classes may be able to come in and cover some of your courses for the degree that you're going to be pursuing with us. So this process can take up to 2 weeks, and it is necessary for it to be done before I can start advising, because I don't want to advise you for a course that you you may have already taken or you may not need. So even if you're only bringing in high school transcripts, we still want to make sure that you are getting all of the credits you deserve, because you may have taken AP courses and things like that for college credit. So once your transcript review is completed, I can then build a schedule for you. We do this we have a couple different tools that we use to make sure that we are advising the best schedule for you that will build on top of itself and get you all the foundational knowledge and classes that you'll need for the upper parts of your degree, and make sure you're not just diving right into the deep end with no prior knowledge. So we don't want that. So once I am done with that schedule for you, I will send it to you. I will be sending it to your Northwest email, so your student email. One thing Becca has already mentioned is your Northwest email is vital. It's important. So coordinators, make sure you're encouraging your students to check that on a weekly basis. I tell my students, set up a reminder. We all have these things called smartphones. So set up a reminder on your phone to check your Northwest University email at least once a week. But if you want to go the extra mile and do twice a week, that would be preferred as well. And then once you get your schedule, right in there we say you have a week to respond. This doesn't mean you won't get registered if you don't respond within a week, but we just want to try to keep the process going because it can be lengthy. And we do have a lot of students that we're trying to advise and get them through the registration process. So if you can look at your schedule, look at the courses I'm advising you for, and then get in contact with me with any questions or concerns, or, hey, I see you advised me for this course, but I'm thinking about taking this class. Like, those are conversations we should absolutely have. But we want to try to get those done before, I try to get my advising done at least before July. Doesn't always happen, but that's kind of the goal. So what happens after that? You send me a schedule. You send me a text or an email back saying you accept your schedule. I then send it to the registrar. The registrar then gets you actually put into your courses. They're also checking to make sure that there's no other there's nothing else that we need, any holds, any, if there, just in case there was something missed, more information. That's kind of why we go to the registrar, because it's the final step in the process, and we just want to make sure everything is okay for you, so that way you're not getting into courses and then all of a sudden having to backtrack and do all this crazy stuff. So, and that's pretty much the advising process. It's pretty simple. It's just kind of tenuous because there's a lot of students to get through. So, but we will get to you.
Great. So what I'm hearing as far as the overall process is students apply online, they apply to their internship program. The coordinators let you know the information for them to get accepted. And then they move on to their financial process. They start the first step doing FAFSA, and then any continuing steps that you notify them of. And then they move on to our advising process, where within 2 weeks to a month, the student should be getting a schedule. And in most cases, the students just say yes to that schedule because we know what's best for them. But if they do have questions or they wanted to take a look at some other courses, the advisors are happy to talk with them. So that's kind of the short end. So right before the student gets registered, there's a possibility that they might have holds. And I just wanted to briefly let the coordinators know what the holds could be. So one of them is an advising hold. Josh, do you want to speak to that?
I would love to speak to that. So the advising hold is nothing to be scared of. It's not going to stop you from getting registered. On our end, what it does do is it prevents you from registering yourself. It prevents the student from registering themselves. And the reason why is because each course is broken up into what's called sections. So we could have 2 different Bible courses. It's the same course, so let's say it's Old Testament history and literature. But we could have 3 or 4 or 5 different Old Testament history courses going on at the same time with different professors. Now, when we first started this program, we tried letting students register themselves through our self-service application. And the problem that we were running into is they didn't quite know which section or which course they should actually apply for, or which one they should actually get registered for. And so we had students in Florida getting registered for courses that were happening here on campus. And we're not going to make you, fly over and take your classes on campus. So we put that hold up just to make sure that we get you into the right section, make sure we get you into a course that actually fits with the program. So that's all that is.
Awesome. And then there's one more hold, the pre-registration hold. You want to speak to that?
Absolutely. Pre-registration hold, there's essentially 3 documents that we need from students. We need your updated contact information, we need your master financial agreement, and there is one more that I'm completely blanking on. Anybody want to help me? There's one more, I can't remember. There's essentially 3. I can't remember what the other one is. But these are documents that we need either from the Board of Education that we have to operate under, or this is something that our school just needs. It's vital information. We want to make sure that if we have a phone number on file for you, we want to make sure it's updated and it is accurate. Things like that. So until that pre-registration is done, we will actually be able to put you into the course. The system will literally stop us from actually registering you. So it's a very easy process. It should only take 5 minutes to do. And you can take care of it months in advance. So before you even talk to me, you should try taking care of that hold if you see that it's on there.
Great. Yeah, and it automatically gets removed once the students kind of go through the steps and fill out the information. Exactly. So that's good. They don't need our assistance in doing that. Students can even do it from their phone. Like Josh said, it takes a couple of minutes. And it does occur every semester. So every time you're about to get registered in classes, you'll have to remove that hold again. So students will get used to doing it, and they won't need your assistance as they move on. So there is one more hold, Celeste, and this would be more for continuing students, but tell us about what the financial hold could mean.
Yeah, the financial hold will go on if a student has a past due balance. So tuition is typically due on September 25th and January 25th. If the student after that date has a balance on their account, then that financial hold will automatically go on and won't allow the student to get registered. The pre-reg hold and the financial hold both have to be cleared. But as soon as the student makes the payment and clears their balance, that hold goes up.
Hi, Claudia. This is Sarah calling from Northwest University.
Great. Awesome. So Really, I think we've went through the basic steps. I just want the coordinators to know that these are the 3 offices you'll be working with. Once a student is registered, they'll be directed to ordering textbooks, and typically the advising office will give you some information on ordering textbooks. And then our offices are also great at sending a lot of updates to coordinators and to students. So you can keep an eye out for bi-monthly updates from our offices, and generally they might look like a spreadsheet where it just has a list of all your students and kind of where they are at in the process. If you have any questions about the information that's being sent to you, just feel free to give us a call or shoot us an email. One more thing to keep in mind is you will be planning an orientation for your students, just so that to make sure they have figured out all these things before their classes start. So we will be doing separate training on orientation, but that's something to keep in mind. And if you do need any help, you can ask us, giving us a call or email. Like I said, our information is on our Eagle webpage on the NPP staff link, which is on the right-hand side of the menu. And we'd be happy to answer your questions. Do any of you 3 have something to add, or you think we're good to go?
I think that's it. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining us today.